sugar has the same effects on your brain as cocaine.
I had chronic migraines since I was in high school, and it robbed me of so many good memories with my family.
Well, everybody does it. So if everybody does it, it must be okay.
The people who are supposed to be advocates, they did not look healthy.
Short-term consequences are not enough to convict people to make changes for the long term.
You're either going to pay now with your health or you're going to pay later with your sickness. Welcome back to the Point of No Return podcast. My name is Mel Landers.
My name is Bryce Landers.
And today we are talking about something that you and I are both super passionate about and really advocating for in our own convictions and our own journeys. But what are we talking about?
Very much so. We're going to talk about health and your calling and how you can steward your health well, and just all things health related to creativity, related to vision, related to purpose. And it's definitely been an exciting journey that we've both been on, and some major changes and just some good things that God's done in our life through our health.
Yeah. And first and foremost, we are not experts in health. We don't really, we neither of us have like a background in health at all. Like I said, it's just our own convictions and what we've learned based on our own journeys.
And we reserve the right to change our mind should the information change. Should we learn more? Should we grow more? Should different data come out? We are not stuck to these opinions. This is just where we're at and what we are convicted by right now.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with maybe your health journey. Do you want to share a little bit about what that's been like for you and where you're at now?
Yeah, my health journey has been a struggle for sure. And I don't think a lot of people know that because I can be very convicted about different foods right now. But I grew up and all we ate was processed food. I would say 90% of what we ate came out of a box, came out of some type of like pre-made meal. The ingredients list on those things were insane. Probably, hundreds of ingredients for mashed potatoes or whatever. And then I was addicted to fast food for sure. I loved McDonald's chicken selects and their crispy golden fries, and a Whopper, or especially Arby's beef and cheddar. But after I graduated and moved out and started to make my own money, I would binge fast food like every other night. It was literally like, can I put gas in my car or should I go spend $20 at Wendy's? And more often than not, Wendy's won. And so this was like years and years and years. And so like fast forward a little bit more, I had tried dieting multiple times, but never like really got behind it because it was always superficial. It was always like, well, you should diet to look good. And being an athlete, growing up in athletics, I'm always working out, always doing something. So I like maintained a decent figure. But when I started to put on weight, it's like, okay, I should lose weight so I can look good. And just the like motivation didn't stick. It was like, would eat clean or eat something healthy that was supposed to be healthy that was trash that I just did not like, but because there was no resolve, there was no why behind it. And it wasn't until COVID that I heard a podcast for Leadership Lean In from Chad Beach. He did it with Devon Franklin at the time, and he talked about health from the perspective of like trying to steward what he did well, but he did honestly get into health out of fear because his dad died at a heart attack, or died with a heart attack at like 34 years old. And that's something that we've talked about it. That's been an ongoing like spiritual battle, is like struggling with that. But then shortly after that, I heard another podcast from Dr. Mark Hyman, and I want to say it was Ed Milet or Lewis House, just another like self-help type podcast. But Dr. Mark Hyman started talking about biology, and he started talking about like, well, your cells are organic organisms, and if you start to put artificial things, you start to put plastic things, you put food, lab grown, whatever, into a organic substance, like of course your body's going to get out of whack. Of course there's going to be like serious dysfunction. And so he broke it down on a biological level, the science behind it, and why clean eating, healthy foods, like, or whole foods, I should say, just that, like an actual steak, vegetables, fruits, like why those energize and give your cells the actual nutrients that they need instead of, a processed steak or like any of the foods. And what really got me is the insane politics and misinformation about the food system that has been going on for years and years. And so from that point on, I read his book, got his cookbook, completely like changed my eating habits. I lost 30 pounds in like a month just from like switching to full whole foods, was very strict, and have not been perfect since then, but definitely strive to like keep bad food out of the house and eat mainly whole clean foods.
Yeah. Well, tying that into, why we're such huge advocates for any type of creative visionary entrepreneur is treating their health, like how do you think making that change and becoming aware of just that timeline and your own personal conviction, like how do you feel like that has impacted or influenced like the work that you do and building now?
I think it has been a major game changer in load management, basically. Like the amount of energy that I have typically on a given day, like even if I don't sleep well, I'm still like, I would say high functioning, where eating clean gives me the energy, and working out too. Like both of those give me the energy to be able to go throughout the day. I'm not like tired, I'm not dragging, and I'm not like hating my life basically. And so it allows me to take on more and to be able to do more things and steward just what God's given me well. And specifically like on creativity and like how your brain works. I mean, our last episode we talked all about AI and creativity and how important it is. Well, one of the biggest things is like how your brain functions. And if you're not eating right, your brain's not going to function right. So you can't create as well as you would like, no matter how hard. Like if you're constantly eating processed sugary foods, like sugar has the same effects on your brain as cocaine and like crack. And so like that is going to significantly affect how you operate on a day-to-day basis compared to eating like whole foods. And it's so sugar and like processed foods are literally everywhere. So it takes intentionality, it takes discipline, but everything comes down to like that vision and that goal. And like the biggest thing for me is probably working out, honestly. And like I don't work out necessarily because I like it. I don't work out because it's like the most fun thing to do, but it's 100% to be able to have energy and know that once I'm done working out, I'm going to feel better and it's going to propel me like through the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked what you said about how food and sugar will impact your brain function. And I think that's so important, obviously, when you're building and you're creating and you're an entrepreneur or you're a leader of people, because people rely on you to be the best you that you can be. But I think also like food has a huge impact on just your quality of life, and not only when it comes to what you're creating and producing, because I think sometimes we get lost in that trap of trying to optimize our health and just like the human body just to produce, and we're not just beings to produce at the same time. I think we are also meant to experience life. And my background before I really got convicted in my health was that like I had chronic migraines since I was in high school all the way until getting out of college. And I remember going over to my parents' house visiting, and I would get there and I would immediately just be tired, or I had a migraine, and it robbed me of so many good memories with my family and has just like taken so many moments of my life that I can't get back. And same thing with energy. I do notice that when I am eating clean foods and whole foods, and I am really sensitive to a lot of things, and it's just made me so much more aware that we have one life, and I want to live life to the fullest, and I want to have highest quality of life. And I think we can be our own self-sabotagers of that. What do we are constantly putting junk in our body. And like you said, like it's not been easy. Like I love a sweet treat, I love a matcha, like we're gonna get tacos after this. I mean, they're the best tacos, but on a day-to-day basis of like really being intentional about what you're putting in your body to give you a good quality of life is so important. It's also really important for the people around you that love you, like when you're like, as someone who has witnessed firsthand sickness in my family and watching people that I love just get robbed of like a good life because of bad health, and not on their own intention, but just there's just so much layers of health that goes into it. And it's really hard for people to witness someone, whether it's a family member or someone that you love, be sick,
Yeah.
right? And so I feel really passionate about us advocating for ourselves and also taking responsibility, because especially in America, like so much of our food is processed and so much of our state and way of being is so normalized in a way that's not really normal for original design. Like I'm in this like season where I'm trying to bring back natural energy in my life, because like I said, I'm always usually pretty sleepy and tired, but then when I look at my habits and what I've been doing, I can usually trace it back to like the sugar that I've eaten, or like being up way too late, not having consistent sleep, like just like really like the simple basics. And I think that there's a way that we can just be aware and take responsibility and making sure that we just get back to the basics to take care of our health.
What do you think pushed you over the edge to want to like start to get clean? I mean, I know I have been an advocate because I am like, no bad food in the house. But like, even when we started dating, you had started taking your health serious. So what like caused you to do that and like want to start taking your health serious? And what has pulled you back, even if you strayed off course, to be able to take it, like just take it to the next level?
It's really funny. You always make yourself sound like this like dominating.
I'm a guru.
But like you're not like that though. Like
I
I
am
feel
a
like
man.
yes, you're a man, but I feel like you're usually a very good influence, and like you never told me like no, you never told me like no, well, they don't do that. It's just more so like you're committed to certain goals, and the information behind things I think is really helpful for me to make my own decisions, and we just happen to be aligned. So I think that's great. But I think that when we had met, my mom had just passed. Like I was saying, she passed from cancer, and then her mom had cancer. And so from there, I was just tired. I was working in a restaurant too. So like it was like years, like from college up until a few years out of college, I was just so deeply ingrained in food and beverage industry. And that industry in itself has terrible implications on your health, late nights, just like eating when you can, getting a little bit of bites when you can, and hardly drinking water, just lots of caffeine. And I just never felt good. And I just like, after my mom passed, it made me realize how short life really was. And like I know people can say that in theory, and we can say that out loud, but like until you actually experience something extremely life-changing in close proximity that's really personal to you, something like that, you don't really realize it. Because it's like, I think back to my mom being like, it feels like she was just here yesterday. But like there was this whole time, years of like her sickness. And so after she had passed, I got out of the industry, and I was like, okay, I'm getting older, and like I really want to maximize my life. And I think the most immediate day-to-day aspect of doing that comes down to health. So I started making it fun, because I was really athletic when I was younger, because it was fun and enjoyable, and I was really competitive. And then as I got into high school, I played tennis for a year because my friends were playing tennis. My dad tried to put me in tennis when I was younger. The kids were mean. Tennis kids are so snobby. And then I started just making it like play again. So I started getting into aerial silks, and that was super fun, challenging. Got into Pilates, and then I got into boxing. And I really fell in love with boxing because it became an art form and a craft. And there's a lot of history behind it, and there's a good community. So for me, like the gym is extremely hard for me. So going to the gym, I'd have to go with another person, but then it created too much mental fatigue for me to make the gym part of my process. So I need a lot of help with that. But I think as soon as I started finding fun in it, and I wanted to challenge myself, and I think when I really committed to health holistically, the active part was a huge element, because I was never disciplined enough to push myself beyond discomfort, I guess. And when I really committed to boxing, I was going like every day, and I was like so like toned, and I felt so strong, and I felt so good, and it felt really good to be disciplined. But I think at the end of the day, it made me realize that I can become someone that I never thought I could become. It made me like, it was an identity change. It's not necessarily about the act itself, but like it told me that I'm a person who values myself and I can do hard things. So at the end of the day, I think the health and the active lifestyle all comes down to that identity that you are speaking to. Because yeah, I don't like the gym, and I wouldn't say like I love working out, but when you add elements that speak to who you want to be, I think that's what gives it purpose. And
That's so good.
unfortunately, I am a person who needs to have intention and purpose behind everything. Everything has meaning. So yeah, and so now I think it's cool because we're in this together, and we're actually at a really unique point. Obviously we're newly married, and in the near future here, we're gonna plan for children.
Yes.
And so
Can't wait.
I know, and so we're actually taking this year to prepare on both of our ends on fertility health. And so I'm really excited about that. I'm actually just kind of documenting it. And I think that like kind of speaks to this thing that I've shared with you, what's on my heart about. There is an alarming, almost like pandemic of infertility among young couples, young women. And it almost feels so intentional, and it feels like a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Because one, it's a lot of young people. And when you look at like what our food is made of, and just like everything, just like our lifestyle, like the non-stop hustle culture that we're in, and just everyone has dysregulated nervous systems, people slamming 4 energy drinks a day just to get through work.
I used to do that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I did it for like a month, and then I was like, this is not for me. It's not for me. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. I think it's super important, and I think that it's just something that Eastern cultures and medicine have really known about for a long time, but Western culture is we're still behind. You know, we're so smart and so advanced in so many ways, but when it comes to our health and really treating our bodies well, like you said, like there's an element where it kind of leans more towards vanity, and I think that doesn't sustain you for the long term.
Yeah. There's the vanity side, but then there's, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it except like a lack of stewardship, where I just think most people, whether like they believe in God, they don't believe in God, their stomach is their God. And like they choose to eat, which there's actually science behind it, because your gut is filled with bacteria, and when it feeds on sugar over and over again, it wants more sugar, because it's there's living organisms in there, you know, probiotics, prebiotics, all like help with that. But like, because people cannot control their urges, they just operate based on what their stomach tells them. I want a McDonald's Big Mac right now, so I'm gonna go get that. And part of it's convenience, you know. I definitely am not underestimating that side of things, but for most people, it's like it's a choice that their stomach says, "Oh, I want this, so I'm gonna get this."
Yeah. And I think, you know, there's a level of balance when it comes to that. I don't know what that looks like. I really don't on it. I mean, I think it varies for different people. Everyone's bodies are so different. But again, just going back to the basics about, you know, hydrating, good sleep, getting sunlight, being active, making it fun, and not putting junk in your body, because that's what your cells are.
Garbage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you feel like has been like the most challenging thing with your health?
The most challenging thing with my health probably is, I think, my injury, actually. Yeah, I don't think I think everything else has been kind of, you know, I wouldn't say challenging. It's just like I've been convicted over and over again, so it's been kind of an easy shift. But definitely tearing my ligament or my tendon in my knee, that causing me to slow down. And that, obviously, we saw a major change in food. And again, it was like, it's a slippery slope, because it's like, oh, I'm gonna go to Buffalo Wild Wings just this one time. And I know I'm going to eat whole foods. It's going to help my recovery and this is going to be great. Well, fast forward to the end of the week. This was like the first week after my surgery, or no, the first week I got injured before my surgery. Buffalo Wild Wings 3 times, Wingstop, and then there was like tacos and something else in between there, because just all the cravings came back and I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything anyways. I'm just sitting here. What's one day, but one day turned into daily, and that was a slippery slope. And so that was like the start of it. And then rehab has been a work in progress. But like you mentioned, the identity shift that had to take place, it's very similar to that, where like I identified as somebody who is always active. So whether it's boxing, basketball on the weekends, basketball during the week, like going for a run, riding the bike, like all of that, it was just like second nature to be active no matter what it was. But now because I'm still not fully healed, still working on rehab, but now I'm like, it's a afterthought almost. Like my body and my mind says you're an athlete and you're active, but my knee is still catching back up to that. So there's a disconnect, which causes a lot of friction.
Yeah. Wait, well, let's go deeper into that though, because like when you're saying that out loud, and I witnessed it firsthand too, but like, yeah, sure, the food and the eating habits are, I think, the byproduct of what we see on like a surface level, but it all comes down to your mindset and, like you said, identity. And in those moments where you were injured, right? Like you said, like you associated your identity with someone who's very active. So when that happens, when it's like your function is taken from you, you kind of like resort to comfort in a way. And I think the easiest means of comfort in our day-to-day that our society caters to is processed food, bad foods.
It's definitely numbing.
Yeah. But I will say though, I think like I was so impressed with how you navigated that, because I think naturally it becomes, you had the rug pulled from under you. So your whole life changed so unexpectedly in such a drastic way, like you couldn't even like use the bathroom on your own, right? Like I had to pick your leg up into the car, just so. But when you were doing rehab and forcing yourself to do your physical therapy even at home, I think that like what I have seen the majority, like the average common person do, is that they use their injuries or they'll use things like that as an excuse to just finding a new way to do things, right? Because I think like we get so used and accustomed to having the comfort of being someone or doing something for the same way for so long that when something like that happens, instead of using that as an opportunity to challenge yourself and grow and do things a different way, we harbor on like how life used to be and how we used to function, and not realizing like that even moments like that where there's like injury or bad health, it is an opportunity to change your mindset and step into a different identity of who you are. And I think that you got really creative with finding new ways to, even now, like you're really creative in eating certain foods to help your body recover and just doing things a little bit differently. But I have seen the majority of people like use that as an excuse to just stop and not commit.
One thing that always used to drive me crazy, this has been going on for years actually, but people who are older, basketball like has all ages, but it would always drive me crazy. Like all the older people would be like, oh, you're young, like enjoy it. And they would always use age as an excuse, which it just drove me so crazy. And because it is not an age thing. It's definitely a environment thing, pending, like severe injuries. But even now you can come back to full strength after a severe injury, which I'm very determined to do with the rehab and with, different like health options and eating right and collagens and stuff like that. But it would just drive me crazy. And so I was always determined never to be that person. And specifically, like, 40s, 50s, like always energized, always like willing to keep up with the young kids no matter what. And just training my mind, training my body to do that. But then it's like bigger than that now too, right? Because if you're an older person and you're like, oh, my knees and my back, well, now you're missing out on memories like we talked about earlier. Like you can't roll on the floor with your kids or your grandkids because of your health. But that's again not a age thing. It's like environment, like what you choose to eat, how you choose to exercise. And I mean, you can let anything be an excuse if you want, but just takes intentional discipline to not allow it to happen.
Yeah, yeah. It really rubs me the wrong way when people say that, or they try to project their experience, which I understand. It's easy to think that that would be a universal experience if that's what you've experienced, if that's what you see around you. But yeah, when people get older, and obviously there is some truth behind your body not having certain functions when you get older too, but to say that you're not going to have energy or you're going to be weak, that's just simply not true. It really is all about adjusting to your body as it changes and grows and develops, and not plateauing just because what used to work doesn't work anymore. There was a woman that I saw on TikTok and I was so impressed, and I was like, that's gonna be me. But it was a Thai woman on TikTok and she was 60 years old and she had the most amazing fit body, and she would just do like, her TikTok was all just her doing really the most basic like at home workouts, and she looked amazing. And yeah, it goes to show that it is a mindset thing, and I'm sure she had to change the way that she worked out based on how her body has changed. There is a, in the Laotian language, I don't remember the word now because I haven't spoken in so long, but there's a word that describes young children, and then it describes older people, like when they have this like livelihood to them, like, but it's like in their bones. Gosh, it's such a fascinating word, but it describes that. And I think that we can like cultivate that. We can constantly cultivate that. It's never just associated to age or just the way things are.
Yeah.
I think that it really comes with being intentional behind it, and
it's like
responsibility.
it's like not a give and take. It's like a circular effect, because like one thing, and we talk all the time about, is purpose. Like you have to have purpose to be energized, because your purpose, your vision, whatever God called you to, is going to energize you, and then your health will support that purpose, and then your purpose will excite you even more, and then if you take your health serious, you're going to be energized, which is going to excite you even more to fulfill your purpose. So it's like just a constant like re-energizing cycle.
Yeah. Why do you think? Because obviously we live in a day and age of so much information. So honestly, I don't know. Generally, I don't think it's a lack of information that does not inspire people to pursue better health and taking better care of themselves. I think we all know that foods are bad, and with certain things, I think there's a lack of knowledge. But I think for the most part, we are so aware, and we know, most people know they should go to the gym, they should be active, they should not be eating the chips and the sodas. Like, people know for the most part. But why do you think that there's still a level of dismissiveness, even though they know that there's bad health implications when it comes to making those types of lifestyle?
That's a really great question. And I think a lot of things, but I'd probably say the biggest reason is maybe a lack of future thinking. Because when you're young, you can think, oh, like, that's not going to happen to me. Like, I got plenty of years, but health is really a compound effect. One like example is oils, right? Seed oils. And there's a lot of debate now about if they're good, if they're bad. What I read and what I believe is that seed oils stick under your skin and they can stay in your body up to 2 years. And so like if you're eating seed oils every single day, it's going to take 2 years for that to come
And
out.
most things have
Most oils have seed oils.
They do.
But then like you might get sunburnt, during the summer or during the beach, but being sunburned is not a natural human reaction, right? It's because of, well, one, the seed oils, but two, like glasses, and that's a whole nother thing, sunglasses. But like the short-term consequences are not enough to convict people to make changes for the long term. So it's like, oh, like, we're busy. Let's just stop and pick up, Whataburger, or, whatever.
You said whatever.
I mean, we don't, but it's like, it's a very short-term thinking. Like, I'm tired now, so let me just do this. It's one time. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But every single time matters. And so,
Compounds.
yep. And
Yeah.
so, like, if you just look at the week, you should at least strive to be like better more days of the week than less.
Yeah.
And start there. And I think most people, like, there's more millionaires than there are people with six-pack. Men specifically. Like, there's more men millionaires than there are men with six-pack, which just says how much like discipline that it takes to have those. And so it's just like, it's all discipline, and like, again, a lack of like future vision, where you can just get so caught up right now.
One thing that you said to me a long time ago, when I think I was saying that I wanted, I don't know, it was a food that I shouldn't be eating. I was like, I really want this. And I was making the choice to opt out. And I forgot how the conversation went. But basically, at one point, you had said, just because you don't feel it now doesn't mean it's not having an effect on you, or just because you don't see it now. And I was like, I knew that, but I don't know, just the way that you said it, I was like, yeah, that's so true. And yeah, like you said, it's like that invisible compound that we don't see, but over time, it does show up in our energy and how we feel in our skin, in just our day-to-day function of life, and like our body will tell it. And that's another thing when it comes to like vanity health. Not sometimes, but with vanity health, there are things that subconsciously give us information about how someone looks. So someone has a six-pack, it's not just that they have a six-pack that makes you drawn to that. It actually signifies and symbolizes that this person has discipline, right? And they're willing to do hard things. Or, if women have like wider hips, like I don't know if it's true, but it signifies fertility, right? So there's just clear skin that signifies like healthy kidney, right, and like liver, or like your eyes, white eyes say healthy liver. So a lot of those things that, yes, can be seen as vanity does have information behind it. And obviously, as humans, we are subconsciously drawn towards good health and vitality. So it's so fascinating that America specifically, we've just really lost touch of that.
Yeah, one thing that came to mind, like bloating, for example, is not normal. Like,
Yeah.
and so kind of going back to the original question is, I think, because everybody else also like does the same things, or like eats the same food, it's like, well, everybody does it. So if everybody does it, it must be okay. But it's not. Like, bloating is not normal. After you eat a meal, your stomach should not bloat, and you should not be like, oh my gosh, I ate so much. Like, that's not how the body is supposed to work, because you can eat like a lot, and if it's all clean food, you don't hate your life. Like, maybe you can speak on that experience for any of the clean meals that we've ate. But every time we eat clean, and it's like, steak and like sweet potato and like a salad and maybe like scallops or whatever we eat on the side too. Like, I'm full, but I'm never like hurting where I'm like, oh my gosh, I ate so much. But that's like a byproduct of like our body telling us like, hey, this is not right. Like, you got to do something else.
One of the times, because we did multiple times, and it was awful, but also really great at the time. One of the times that we did 75 hard and we chose to do the whole food diet and we cut out seed oils was so hard for many reasons. One reason, because all the foods marketed as healthy and clean still had some type of seed oil, or just like
Sugar.
Sugar, just not natural ingredients. And so when I cut that out for the first time ever in my life, I felt so good. Like, I saw it in my face. Like, all my inflammation down, all my bloating down. Like, I just was like glowing, and people noticed you. They were like, "You're like glowing." I'm like, "Oh, it's literally just my diet and water and like just the basic like good sleep and being active. Like it's really just that." But why why do you think that people I think that might be an area where people are lacking a little bit of information and knowledge on that, but like why is there a lack of knowledge on that?
On
Seed oils
yeah, I think again it's like, well,
and inflammation, I guess.
let's go deep into the conspiracy theory. So this started in like the 80s, and I haven't brushed up on my knowledge. I just stay away from all the bad stuff. So it's like haven't like really talked deep about it. But I mean, you hear about big pharma, and you hear about you don't really hear about big like food, but the amount of lobbying and the amount of backdoor deals that go on between the, you know, medical and like pharmacy side and the food side is insane. Like a long time ago, General Mills lobbied the like doctor party to put their sticker on cereal. Like they wanted the Heart Association to say, hey, tell everybody our cereal is healthy, to obviously get more sales. And so there's a lot of stuff like that based on marketing, based on companies wanting to produce like,
They got
you
us
know,
with Cheerios.
yep, they got us. And like that's a significantly processed food that they say like, oh, wheat is heart healthy, which maybe unrefined wheat in like sourdough bread might be, but not what Cheerios are today. Is like mostly sugar that goes into your body. It's processed as sugar. So your body bloats, you get inflamed, and then you have actually heart disease or like, you know, different consequences, stuff like that. But like Marie Callender's, the like TV dinners, that was another like companies were, they wanted to move from like butter to margarine. And so they created this artificial person, Marie Callender, to like represent.
Marie Callender is not real.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
She's not.
And you know what? I'm gonna put some links in the bio or in the description of like, no. And we'll fact check that. But I'm like 98% real that Marie Callender was made up by what's the company, whatever company owns it, because what they wanted, this is a side note, but what they wanted was to start to sell more TV dinners. And so they needed a face that, you know, the moms could resonate with. And it's like, oh, it's Marie Callender. Yeah. So it's like good, or it's like, if this woman will do it, like you can do it for your kid. So it's just like stuff like that. The whole fat, like butter is bad, olive oil is bad, or like fat is bad for you. That came in like the 80s or the 70s, where they wanted to push margarine. That's what I was saying earlier. They wanted to push margarine. So they started to say all that stuff is bad. And it was just a big, you know, marketing scheme so they can push out, you know, butter, margarine. There was different like research tests, like studies. And on one of the, I forgot which one it was. I think it was either margarine or it was like the just the overall fat, like for diets. Well, there was like 30 reports that said, no, like what you're saying, like fat is good for you. Like fat's not bad. They threw out all of those reports and only used the 17 that like supported their facts to be able to push whatever they wanted to push, the like fat is bad, which again, I'm going to put some books and resources in the chat that have really helped me, because it just opened my eyes to like just how it works. Like USDA cows, they can eat candy, they can eat medications, because once they're like, when they're about to be like butchered and like sent to slaughter, they need to reach a certain weight because they produce so much. So they'll just throw all the like Skittles, like your cow is eating Skittles and processed food. And so that combined with the trauma of like, you know, the slaughter, like all of that matters, and it's in the meat. And then we eat that, and then from a biological standpoint, again, all of that affects our cells. And so we're eating this traumatized meat and putting it in our body, and it's like no wonder that we don't feel good. Which now I forgot the question because I've been like on a rant, but information. So I think there's just so much misinformation and so many things. Like, that's just the way it's always been. But it's like, people, I think there's a lot of information, but people just don't take the time to learn. Like, just people have accepted that you get sick. People have accepted like these major illnesses like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Like, more and more research is coming out that it's because of sugar, and like that is a major, among other things, but sugar is like a major
Processed sugar, not
yes, process, yes, which that's, I mean, I don't even consider fruit sugar. I mean, it technically, the like,
when we eat sugar, we need
with
some
processed white sugar that like is in everything. And so I think people just don't research enough. Like, if we did a survey and asked, 100 people how much intentional research or study they've done on their health, probably 10. I mean, like, if that.
Yeah.
Most people just go through the day to day. They, see the organic, granola bar. And so they're like, oh, organic. I know I should eat organic. So they grab the box, not reading the ingredients to see that there's actually 55 ingredients in there. And because of the FDA regulations, you can have a certain percentage of things that are non-organic, or like the food doesn't have to be fully organic to label it as organic. Like, there's just crazy things. So I think, long answer.
Yeah. And one thing that's been so disheartening for me in relation to that, and I really noticed it when my grandma got sick before my mom with lymphoma, cancer. And I spent a lot of time in hospitals just observing the environment. And I had this realization that it started there, that the people who are supposed to be advocates and centers for health, they know medicine by the book, but they don't promote or know health.
Yeah.
Like, when I was with my mom, the doctor's in and out, and, I would go to the cafeteria because I'm there for days, weeks, hours. And I'd go to the cafeteria, and it's like they have like the greasiest pizza, just like terrible food, like not real food. And then, I hate to say it, but like these like doctors and people working in health, they're out of shape, and they did not look healthy. And I'm like, how is it that you are in a field that advocates for health, and
it's crazy.
Right. And so these people who are, experts, textbook experts in health and medicine, one, they're not embodying a healthy lifestyle. And you can just look, and even the environment that they work in, like, granted, like, someone has to do the job, so it does call for caffeine and like odd sleeping hours too. But these people who go to them to get better are putting so much trust in them, and they take it for what it is.
Right.
And without doing any further research on it themselves. But it's just interesting that, like I said, people who would advocate for health are not informed themselves.
Yeah, it's
on true health.
It's insane. I mean, there's so many good books, but just like you're saying, they're like one specific area that is their expertise. Like, for my knee, I went to an orthopedic surgeon, and he's knees, and I forgot what he does, like 3 different things, but like his specialty is knees. So he's not gonna talk about nutrition. And I mean, he said maybe maintain a healthy diet or whatever, but what does that mean? Like, it's very, vague. But like, your body is a full system. Like,
Right.
it's a system of systems. I heard somebody say that. And like, think of like the millions and billions of different organisms, like your stomach and then your brain. Like, that's 2 completely separate systems, but they work together in unison. And if you're diagnosing the knee for something, you would think that maybe you would consider some other parts of the system, like, to understand how you're going to be affected and stuff like that.
And it's interesting, your own mind can even make your body sick, or it can make it help it, right? Like, I mean, I'm not an expert, but just from speculation in my own research and like what I've learned and read about is that like the thoughts that you have can actually give information and signal to the rest of your body health or death, disintegration. I don't know what that would be, but And kind of going back to you're saying about the doctors and how they're not inquisitive about your life as a whole and your habits as a whole. And I think that's so important. And I think just in society too, like for some reason we don't have that knowledge that it's not separate. It is all one holistic function, your mind, your body, and your spirit, right? So what about spiritual health? How do you think that correlates to your body and your mind?
Well, I think if you're not spiritually healthy, you'll definitely not be like physically healthy or emotionally healthy. And they're all a system, so they all work together. But like typically, and I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I feel like when you're spiritually healthy, you're not going to binge eat, for example. Like you're going to put your trust in God, you're going to like work, and he's going to work in your life. He's going to just speak to you on like what's right and wrong. And like you'll know, you might be driving to McDonald's about to, order that 50-piece nugget, but then it'll say, you shouldn't do that. You should, go to the store and get something to cook. So that's like the foundation. And then like, at least for me, like I want to honor God with my body. So now it's like a giving back process of like, my body is a temple. So let me like make sure it's a good place that he can live. He can use me. He knows that like this life is not my own. So I can like pay it back. But, praying, like reading my Bible and like just locking in spiritually and then locking in physically and eating right, like that maintains like just eating, avocado and salmon, like we were talking about brain health, all of that helps with your brain. So you're not going to have crazy ups, you're not going to have crazy downs, because a lot of people suffer from, depression, which is, there's more studies about that sugar is a big contributor to depression. And so your body is not going to be like crazy high, crazy low, crazy high, crazy low. So again, they all like tie into each other. But what do you think?
Yeah. Well, like, yeah, I mean, I like what you said about, if you're spiritually healthy, you are not going to be physically unhealthy. However, I've speculated so much being in the church world too. So it's like, I look at this contrast of people. What's that one guy who's like, he's never going to die? What's his name?
Brian Johnson.
That guy. Okay. I can't like that. He's kind of dead behind the eyes.
Yeah.
I can't imagine he's spiritually healthy.
Yeah, well, anything can become an idol, right?
Yeah. So he's very physically healthy.
Mhm.
Like he is like supposedly never gonna die. And then I see this huge, just in specifically the church culture. Like I look at all these like very influential leaders and just they've impacted people on a spiritual level and they speak and they pastored people and they're so spiritually mature, but they're so out of shape. Their eating is terrible. And then within the cultures that they create, they're not advocating for health too. So it's like I have seen the contradiction in there. So what's that about?
That's a good question. I don't agree with it. So I'd maybe argue that like, are you really spiritually healthy? But I think, just the church world and like Christians like to, pit sin against each other. Like your sin is bigger than my sin, but stuff like that. So I think like gluttony and like overeating kind of often gets missed and not considered. But honestly, I don't know. It's kind of like you stick your head in the sand sort of thing. Like you just ignore it and hope that it goes away and just, focus on other things, which I think we as humans can do just in general, is just to focus on the things that I don't know that take up the most space. Maybe kind of going back to what we were talking about as far as information, I think it's just the same old, like we try to be different, but we just maybe associate it with vanity and they go, oh, health is like vanity because like bodybuilding has been around and like, there's a lot of fad diets, but it's never like positioned as like, this is stewardship. and their body is stewardship.
Yeah.
I think it's like an information thing and like a perspective thing.
I think, perspective thing for sure. I think going back to what you first said, your answer was about how, like, are you actually spiritually mature then? Because I can see how when you're living in a place where, have you met those people who are like so overly spiritual, they're so flowy and they're so in that realm that they cannot connect and they are not here in the physical realm.
Yes.
And they're so detached. And I would say that is a form of being spiritually unhealthy. And I could see how people would lean into that when it comes to physical health and spiritual health, because they would see themselves as so detached from their body when that's actually not reality and that's not biblically sound either. Scripture does say that your body is a temple.
Right.
It's a form of worship when we steward our bodies, right? And so I think that there's like another element there of being attuned to both the spiritual realm and the physical realm as well, and not having to choose one or the other because they're both very important.
You know what I've been seeing more and more lately is people talking about Jesus carrying his cross. And like, I mean, biblical times, you were walking everywhere regardless, but that was a 300-pound wooden cross like he had to carry. So however, I forgot how far it was, and like however he did it, like if he dragged it or like lifted it, like he would have had to be decently strong to be able to carry.
He also walked and traveled to all of these places,
all his
to preach
places,
the gospel.
right? And so like, and I mean, every Jesus picture you see is not a man with a belly, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but you don't see that, right? He's like slim, and that's just the nature of, the times. They're walking everywhere, but he would have been in shape. He would have been taking care of his body just by default. But I think culture has shifted so much to like, you sit all the time and you are constantly like, watching TV, you're constantly numbing, you're constantly vegging out, where I think people, just the way that culture has become, people just don't think about it.
Right. I think people forget that you can opt out. I see it online all the time, and I don't argue with it. I think I try to have more empathy than not, because I've been there, like especially my bartending days, where it's like I'm just so tired and I'm trying to just pay the bills that like you are going to work, and I can't even imagine having kids and having that lifestyle, but like you have mouths to feed and you're so used to just surviving. And I think people, a lot of people would argue that they're just trying to survive and things are expensive and the economy and like, all those things. But again, like that's not truly living in our design and life to the fullest. And I think when you opt out, yes, it's hard to challenge yourself to get resourceful about how to opt into a healthier lifestyle. But I think that all comes back to a mindset, right? It's like you don't just accept it for what it is just because of how conditions are. I think you take the initiative to figure out, if it's going to cost you more money to invest in healthier foods, then it's an investment, and find more ways to make money. Obviously, easier said than done, but it's health is just, it's everything, health. What's the point if you have all this money and then you get sick? Like what, for what? So, it's really interesting. What do you say to people who maybe have that argument about how it's just not reasonable or it's too expensive to commit to a healthier lifestyle? What do you think?
I think they need to really evaluate what's too expensive. It's because, I mean, we were just talking the other day, like, sure, you can spend a little more on groceries, which if you really calculate it, especially everybody complains about how expensive things are in general now. So everything's going to be expensive.
Have rise, and that is true.
But if you like calculate it, it's probably not that much more for, a whole food diet, which part of it too, people are just, again, like culture is lazy. But when I was like really, really tight on a budget, I would go to 4 different stores and I would know like, okay, where is it cheaper to get ground beef? Because people don't know that the way stores make money is like some of their stuff is cheap. Some of their stuff is significantly higher than other stores, like, the huge M bars, which are like clean chocolate bars, like dark chocolate. But where were we were at Walgreens the other day, and the bar there was like $6.50, but at Target they're $3.50. But at the same time, Whole Foods is $6. So it's like the same product, but they're all just different price. So like knowing where's cheaper if you really are on a budget, and you can say like, oh well, like all this gas is like it's adding up, but I promise the stores aren't that far that it's making that much of a difference. And what you save from driving to the fast food places, the restaurants, you can, buy that food. But then it's going to have a positive effect because you're going to get more energy. You're going to feel better. Like you're going to like think better. You're going to be able to produce better. So it's like an upward spiral. But what happens is either you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later. There's one or the others.
Yeah.
And like just staying on the note of sugar, if you are like going crazy on sugar and you end up with Alzheimer's, which pray you do not, well, you need help. Like you can't do that alone. So you have to either get into assisted living, you have to have your family do it if they're willing. Like somebody is going to have to watch you all the time. And that's not cheap. Like some of these assisted living places are like 10 grand a month. And so it's like, you don't have money now, how you have money to pay, 10x the cost for like a living place, right?
Not to mention all the medical
bills. Like just my knee facility, they billed insurance $25,000, which is like insane. Like I was there for 3 hours. Like it's a ripoff.
Right.
So
they do it because they can.
Yeah. So it's definitely like do it. Like it might be a little bit more, but you're gonna like thank yourself,
right?
For sure.
It's like the way that I would word that perspective is that like it's an investment now to save you from a cost later. It's one thing that I heard my best friend's mom say a long time ago, because she has been struggling with an autoimmune sickness for some time, but she's doing so good now because she committed to a healthy lifestyle. But she said once, you kind of just said it, but you're either going to pay now with your health or you're going to pay later with your sickness.
Yep.
And it's so like, it's such a simple principle. It's a non-negotiable. We're feeding into a healthier body, healthier lifestyle, healthier mind. And yeah, our culture is so contradictory to that. Yep. They're not advocating for us.
Not at all. No, but as we wrap, what would you say to the people listening that they can do to like start to make changes, start to research, or like really start to lean into their health?
Yeah. I mean, when I look and I think about like the most healthy and like people who have vitality, I think, and it doesn't really require them so much effort. I think about like a lot of Asian cultures, like the way that I was raised by my mom and my grandma, like and like our culture, it's like they eat a lot of fish, a lot of vegetables, like really not a lot of dairy, but also better quality foods. They just don't eat a lot of processed things. The times have changed a little bit now in those mainstream foods. But at the end of the day, if you eat whole foods, if you get sunlight, if you stop manufacturing energy, like energy drinks and having lots of caffeine all throughout the day, cutting out processed sugars and hydrating with good water, adding salts, Celtic salts and lime to your water so you get electrolytes, and being active, 10K steps a day or whatever your workout looks like, just like keeping it super basic and simple and making time for it.
Right.
Not leaving it as an afterthought for when you have time. And I'll say I'm still struggling with that, but like I am so aware of it that I can tell in a day-to-day basis where if I neglect it and I put it on the back burner, I can feel it. And I just feel like I didn't attain like the highest quality of life I could have in that day. And it was my own doing. So I'd say just go back to the basics. Keep it simple.
I love that.
That's it.
I love that.
What about you?
I would say,
no coffee.
First of all, shout out Ice Cream for Bears. If you have never had Ice Cream for Bears, it's super clean. Six to like 8 ingredients.
We get a pint. Like
all
5 times.
Like every
I don't know if that's healthy yet.
But there's studies that say people who eat ice cream every day are, living longer. Clean ice cream. Yeah. Sponsor us, please. But what I would say is like, first of all, find your reason why, because like superficial dieting doesn't work. And until you take ownership over your health, like you won't take it serious. I think that's my perspective on health in general. Like you can, because nobody likes to be preached at and like, oh, you shouldn't eat that.
Right.
Like nobody cares. But if you find your why, then you will like take the time to start to research. And then I would just read about the industries. Like I said, Dr. Mark Hyman writes great books. He's gotten 4 like good ones. Dr. Casey Means has a great book. Who else? There's a lot of great books. Dr. Amen, I think he has some great books. But just like taking the time to understand like food and how it's like processed, how it like came to be, the food system that we're in. And then I think everybody should try 75 hard. And like actually 75 hard, I promise you can do it if you stick to it. But then yeah, everything you said, just starting to eat whole foods, incorporating whole foods more often than not. Like you don't have to start with organic. Like if you are eating 100% processed diet, TV dinners, pizzas, like because it like chicken nuggets, like all that stuff, because it's cheap. If you just switch to whole foods from, Costco or whatever, where it's like actually chicken, it's actually, fish, it's actually beef, you'll see a significant improve like over time. So just like switching to that stuff and cutting sugar more than anything, doing a sugar fast.
Yeah.
And then hydrating and everything you just said.
Yeah.
So
really good. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. It was really good. And obviously, I mean, we love talking about this just because it's changed our lives so much. And I think I can speak for the both of us when we say that we really have a passion for people just living a higher quality of life. And that starts with your health. And so we are rooting for you. If you are making this change, just know that it's going to help you. If you have children, it's going to be great for them, their children's children, and everyone around you. If you invest into your health, the work that you do relies on it. So yeah, we're rooting for you from afar. And
if you enjoyed the conversation, make sure you share it with somebody who needs to improve their health, because like that's very important to us. And I think we can really start to change the world as we have these conversations more and more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.